What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, guys. I had a special recommendation here. I thought very interesting, especially by the title. We got how Europe stole the world. I don't think I ever seen this. Definitely look new. If I have, my apologies, but we're gonna do this anyway. I could check. I don't know why I didn't check to begin with, but let me make sure. Europe stole the world. Okay, we're gonna make sure. Okay, perfect. I haven't done this one yet, so it makes sense to do it. And there's two parts, so I'm gonna do one today for y'all, and I'll probably do part two maybe tomorrow or the next day, because they're pretty lengthy. But we're gonna check this out. Definitely interesting. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Send down those recommendations.
The world you live in today was sketched on paper by European men who looked like me. Men who at first were just curious and adventurous, but soon whose motives morphed into an insatiable greed, a confidence that their way was better than everyone else's.
I feel like I've seen this guy in another video.
Led to arguably the most influential series of events in human history. At least the history that affects you and me. A 500-year project of moving people and weapons and germs and language and violence to every corner of our earth.
Wow.
And in the process, gathering and taking home stuff to make them richer. Metal, rubber, tea, sugar, and human bodies.
Oh.
This isn't a history lesson. You won't hear me talk a lot about dates and names. Instead, this is the first of 3 videos where I want to show you how this happened. How Europe, a continent full of poor, miserable farmers, took over the entire world. And in the process, they shaped it. They shaped it to their way of thinking and speaking and doing things. So this is part 1 of how Europe stole the world.
Ain't gonna lie, I do feel like I'm watching the History Channel.
I am out here on a bit of an excursion near the sea, but I want to pause this video because I need to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, which is BetterHelp, a company that is trying to help you improve your mental health. I'm a giant fan of therapy. I've said it before, I will continue to say it. I think therapy is way underutilized in our society. We all have mental health issues, whether we like it or not, whether they're diagnosed or not.
That's a fact.
And BetterHelp is trying to make therapy, which is just working through the things in your mind, more accessible. And I'm a giant supporter of that mission. I've been in therapy for several years. It has changed the way that I think. It has changed the way that I approach my relationships. It has changed me. I can say that unambiguously and very genuinely. What BetterHelp is a platform to make therapy more accessible to people, anyone around the whole world. It's not bound by geography. So instead of looking for a therapist like in your local town, you go on to BetterHelp, you sign up, you take a very short quiz, and they match you with somebody in their huge network of like tens of thousands of therapists. Once you're matched, you can start communicating with a therapist in as little as like 48 hours, which if you've ever looked for a therapist before, that is very, very quick. That is very easy. And that's what BetterHelp's trying to do, is just use technology to make therapy more accessible. I'm a big fan of that. You can choose how you do your therapy. You can do it over the phone. You can do it over video call. You could even do it over like messaging if you don't want to talk. BetterHelp is not like a self-help program. It's not a crisis line. It's legitimate therapy that is done securely on the internet. This is why over 3 million people are on the BetterHelp platform, taking control of their mental health.
That's cool.
So if you want to get in on this, try BetterHelp out. There is a link in my description. It is betterhelp.com/JohnnyHarris. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gives you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can try it out. BetterHelp is already really affordable. There's even financial aid for those who need it. Thank you, BetterHelp, for supporting my channel, for supporting this video, and for making therapy more accessible. Okay, now back to this incredibly important story on how Europe stole the world.
Dang. Look at them.
Yes.
I have something interesting to say before he gets started. So I told you I sub at schools and stuff like that. And today overheard some kids. They wasn't arguing, but they were having conversation about the earth. Oh, the earth's flat. No, the earth's shaped like a sphere. Oh no, the earth is flat. I thought that was very interesting. Consider, I think these kids, when they see globes or as you see, they see maps and stuff. That's their predict. Oh, the earth is flat or the earth is a sphere. I thought that was interesting. I was just laughing.
I'm going to be looking at a lot of maps to understand this issue because drawing on the map is how they did things.
Facts. Exploration.
To understand how Europe stole the world, we need to rewind to back when the map looked a little different. Hold on. Back in like 1450,
Dang,
the world
how you get a hold of that map?
looked like this.
What? What is it? Pretty much just Europe? Yeah, because they got Portugal. That was it? Dang.
I mean, Europe was just a bunch of smaller kingdoms. The borders look so different than they do today. They were all pretty small potatoes. Well, actually, there actually were no potatoes. Those wouldn't arrive to Europe for another 50 years. But the fact is, there wasn't an abundance of anything in Europe. Instead, Europeans were just farmers barely scraping by, constantly in debt to a few rich landlords.
Dang.
Life in Europe was scarce and miserable. Meanwhile, there was a bunch of other empires around the world that were thriving. There was this big empire over in the Middle East. They had silk,
Wow.
and then over here in India, you had a big empire with spices and luxurious cotton fabrics. Then, of course, there was the big dynasty in China that had by this time already invented gunpowder, porcelain, and really
Dang.
sophisticated ships that they could use to sail around the world. Oh, and all of these empires were trading with one another, making all of them even richer. They all
Wow.
had better everything than Europe did, and miserable Europeans eventually wanted in on all the trade. So that's kind of the context here that sets the stage for Europe taking over the
I'm still
world.
trying to figure out how he got his hands on a map that old. I need to see these.
The first two countries that wanted in on all this trade and set out to explore were the countries that today we know as Spain and Portugal. So they start looking for a land route to get them east. They start moving east and nope. Oh look, it's the Ottoman Empire, a very powerful Middle Eastern empire that's run by Muslims. Meanwhile, Spain and Portugal are hella Catholic and they're not being super nice to Muslims or Jews. So the Ottomans are like, no, we're not gonna let you pass through our land to get in on the trade in the East. Oh, and by the way, you can't even afford our taxes. You're miserable Europeans without a lot of money, so go away.
Dang.
They're gonna need
harsh.
another way to go east.
Looks like they had to
Portugal's
take the longer
workaround was
way.
literally to go around the continent of Africa, stopping along the coast to trade with the wealthy African empires along the way. This is a huge
Wow.
moment because it actually worked. It's near the end of the 1400s, and the Portuguese are now going nuts. They're sending ships around this route that they figured out, trading with the East. And suddenly the Portuguese are dressing in luxurious fabrics. They're using cloves
Dang.
and cinnamon and black pepper to make their food actually taste good. Wait a minute, you're telling me they didn't have black pepper before this? Jeez, miserable indeed.
You must have some papers.
So the age of exploration has begun. Miserable Europe is doing something about their situation, going out to get in on the thriving trade in the East. But remember, this isn't about conquering land, it's about trading.
Yeah.
For now.
That is true. That is true. I think, especially when it comes, it's crazy to think about it. I don't know why I stopped on this picture. It just happened, but it's crazy to think about it that, they were trading materials or spices and, different things like that. Then all of a sudden it just got to the point where, I want this land. Let's take it. Or let's fight for this,
Okay, so now Spain sees Portugal hitting the jackpot and they're kind of jelly. They want in on this too. They need to establish their own trade route to Asia, but they wanted to do things a little bit differently. Instead of following Portugal's lead and going around Africa, they listened to a pitch from this Italian sailor. And this sailor wants
Not
them to
Columbus.
fund his new startup called What If We Sailed West to Get to Asia instead of East? Super promising name. Now remember, at this point, people in Europe thought that the world looked like this. The logic was like, oh, we can just hop over to Asia by going this other way. So Spain was like, yes, great idea, high risk, high return, do it, Columbus. Well, it turns out the world does not look like this. And instead, over here, there are a couple of massive continents that Columbus ran into. But like many of us confident white dudes, Columbus was like, yeah, I know exactly where I am. We're like in the Indies right now. Like over those guys over there, those are Indians. Yep, I can feel it. But instead, he was like in Cuba. But despite the mansplaining, Columbus kind of found exactly what he was looking for and more. Great empires with rich culture and food and precious metal that weren't available to him back home. He was right on target.
Wow.
So he's like, all right, guys, let's trade. But then he's like, wait a minute. These people don't have armies or navies protecting their stuff.
Dang.
So this must be kind of a different place. Different land with different rules. And this is where the biggest light bulb moment
Interesting. Very interesting.
of the century goes off in this guy's head. Change of plans, boys, says Columbus. We're going to claim this land. And everyone was like, wait, what?
How?
You heard me. We are claiming
What? How?
this land. And the boys are like, wait, weren't we here to like trade with great empires? Portugal's been doing this for like all these years and getting rich. And he's like, no, they don't have armies. They're just letting us show up and like be here without a fight. So obviously that means they don't mind if we just like claim the land. I mean, I'm taking some creative liberty here on like explaining what Columbus was thinking, but like, look at the level.
I mean, at this point, he could have been. That's probably what he would. Hey, they ain't stopping us. We talking or something. You know, we pulling up like we already belong, like it's already ours anyway.
That he wrote. Here's the letter that Columbus wrote back to the king and queen, reporting on what he saw. He writes back saying that he discovered many islands inhabited by numerous peoples, and then I took possession of them for our most fortunate king, making public proclamation and unfurling his standard, his flag, with no one making any resistance.
Wow.
No one making any resistance. Spain and Portugal set out to trade. They sent out to like explore and understand and get in on the global economy. But Columbus's realization was instead of trading, they could actually just claim land for themselves. And this changed everything. After all, no one was making any resistance. This moment is the foundation upon which all European imperialism grows. I'll show you. It's the moment that would give us the first big division in the minds of Europeans, the thing we wrote on paper, the old world versus the new world. This is really familiar language to us now, but it was invented in this moment. The new world was now seen as land that could be claimed. It was fair game to go conquer because they didn't have big armies or a Christian king. Forget trade with the East, said Columbus. There's a bunch of land that we can go take over in the West.
Dang.
And the race was on. Spain and Portugal didn't want to fight with each other over all this land, this conquest that they were about to undertake. So they got together and they drew some lines. No, literally, they just drew two straight lines. We have Africa, we have Europe, and then we have this line. Everything left of this line is Spain's. Everything to the right is Portugal.
Wow.
This is literally
That's
one of the original maps where they actually drew these straight lines and divided the world into two. But let's look at this on a nice
That is wild. So Spain and Portugal, huh?
looking map, please. There we go.
That's crazy. That is wild. What is that? Little half of Australia back there? I think I see Alaska. Yeah, that is Alaska over there.
Now we can see very clearly. Oh look, now we understand why they speak Portuguese in Brazil. So Spain and Portugal now have their spheres of the world that they can go conquer. They didn't ask anyone, they didn't negotiate with the locals, they just
Took it.
drew these straight lines. The Pope actually helped them broker the deal. Classic. But again, this is a huge thing that I want to explain in this series, that these were not just lines. They weren't just like lines on paper. They were actually a shift in the paradigm, a new way of thinking about the world. No one making any resistance. It was a story that Europeans could now tell themselves. Old world versus new world. Claimed versus unclaimed. A new way of thinking. Think I'm being overly simplistic about this? Let me show you something. 1, 2, 3, 4. These were a juicy find.
Dang.
I found this amazing Portuguese nautical atlas.
What?
It's a bunch of maps that the Portuguese Navy drafted up right after these two.
And this is what's crazy about it. I can't believe they were traveling and just looking at these. Like, I mean, now, you know, we with technology and stuff, but I couldn't imagine how I'll be able to get, like, using a compass, like, getting around the world and stuff, let alone knowing, like, all right, we went this, all right, we can go back. This is how we're going back and forth. Like, that is different.
Atlas. It's a bunch of maps that the Portuguese Navy drafted up right after these two lines divided the world between Spain and Portugal. And it is an amazing series of maps, but not only because it's visually stunning, but also because it lets us into the mind of how the Portuguese saw the world after they divided it with Spain.
Wow.
This atlas
That's a very detailed
reads like
map,
a storybook.
or atlas, right?
It's like the Portuguese were so giddy about giving themselves permission to steal half the world that they had to write a children's story about it. That's what it feels like. That's not what it is. But just look at this. Here's the title page. You can see that at the center is...
Look at the details in this thing. That is wild.
The sphere that was given to Portuguese. Brazil, Africa, what is now the East Indies. And here on every corner, you see these angels that are blowing wind into the sails of the Portuguese who are out on their land grab mission.
Dang.
So this is just the title page. The subsequent pages of this atlas are close-ups on different regions.
Oh, wow.
This is the Caribbean over here, look. This will become Cuba, this will become Haiti, Dominican Republic, North America, South America, all of this unclaimed, up for grabs. Here, our story depicts all these flags. Some of them are Spanish flags on the islands on their side of the line, but then you have Portuguese flags on the Portuguese side of the line. The status of this land, according to the fantasy of the Portuguese, changing from unclaimed to claimed by men on ships with Christian crosses on their sails, showing up and planting flags.
Wow.
This was like playing a board game to them.
That is what it seems like. Like, that is crazy. It's pretty much, this was pretty much Monopoly. It's like Monopoly out here.
Here's another page. This one's a close-up on Brazil. And look, we've got people over here. We've got dark-skinned, naked people with primitive tools and no homes. It looks like down here in Brazil, they spend their days chopping wood naked and dancing, all while being gazed upon by fantastical birds and dragons?
What in the world?
This was an official naval atlas drafted for the king. And if its message wasn't clear enough on how these people should be depicted, the atlas has a little info box up here where they say that the Brazilians are, quote, savage and very brutal.
Dang.
This is one of the first atlases ever made, and it wasn't really a navigation tool. It was much more a declaration of a new way of seeing the world. Unclaimed territory, subhuman people, all of it up for grabs by Christian boats. So yeah, this is how it all started. Under this new paradigm, both empires expanded very quickly, forcing the Spanish and Portuguese languages across the ocean, mining vast quantities of silver, creating plantations for tobacco and sugar, and in the process massacring the people who were living in this new world both with their weapons, but also with their European city germs that the people being conquered didn't have immunity to.
Dang.
I mean, this whole thing started with curiosity, with a thirst to get in on the trade in Asia. But soon, as this fantasy of unclaimed land came into the picture, the goal shifted, the project pivoted, and soon Europe was telling themselves a new story, that they, enlightened Christians, were entitled to claim it. And while this story starts with Spain and Portugal, soon it spread. Other European countries poked their head up from their farm work and said, hey, we're white Christians also. We know how to sail. We want in on this story of
let us get something too. Let me have a piece of the pie.
That's the next chapter of the story. One that I will tell you in the next part of the series.
Wow. This was good. This was good. Very detailed. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Like, I'm telling you, we definitely don't learn nothing like this in school. We learned about Columbus. All we learned about, he discovered the land. That's about it. But it's more than just a discovery. It's more of, we couldn't go this way, so we went this way because the options that we wanted to go were not available for us. We couldn't go that way. So, hey, let's go the long way. And we just happened to run into the new world. Interest. I'm definitely interested in watching part 2, man. There's these type of stories, especially, dating back to when the Americas and stuff was discovered. They're very interesting, but hey, I'm telling you, know what? These people, they don't have no guns. They don't have no, they don't have an army or nothing. Hey, we can just, we got a new place to stay, guys. Let's come over here and camp out here. Like, they're not stopping us. We pulling up like we already live here. No problem. Let's claim it. They don't have nothing here. They don't have flags. Let's claim it. Very interesting. Very interesting how Europe stole the world, man. This is some good stuff. I'm definitely going to have to check it out the next day for y'all. But that's all I have for this one. Appreciate the recommendation. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. And y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.